afternoon. I hope that all of you are having a great Sunday. I know it's a hot Sunday, if nothing else. These temperatures, every day, I feel like it's hotter every day. So I am encouraging you to stay hydrated. I'm encouraging you to make sure that you only go where you need to go because it is hot outside. It is absolutely hot outside. And so I am saying to you, make sure that you stay hydrated. But I'm so pleased as always that you could join us today, and we're going to have another exciting conversation. We are continuing our relationship series. Last episode, we talked about whether or not you are relationship fit. And so this episode, we are going to be talking about marriage, building to last. Because really and truly, who wants to go into marriage thinking, okay, I'm going to give this a 5-year period, I'm going to give this a 10-year period, and then I'm done. I'm out of there. If that's what you were thinking, if that's what you want to do, then I'm thinking maybe not. Maybe no. Maybe you should just sit this one out. As always, I'm not alone. I have my panel of experts. No pressure, guys. No pressure, no pressure. So I have my panel of experts. Let me bring everybody on screen. Oh, Stephanie, I don't know what's happening. You're sideways. I don't know. Let me see. I don't think that there's anything that I can do. You are muted and you are sideways. So, there you go. Perfect. Now we don't have to have the conversation like this. But let me welcome everybody officially. So we have Mistress Gabrielle Cooper. We have Mrs. Anastacia Simmons. And we have a wonderful, wonderful relationship and marriage counselor, Mrs. Stephanie Burrows, back with us. And she's going to be helping us, and we're going to be talking through and having open and honest conversation about some of the tools that we can use in order to do the best that we can for our marriages to last, building to last, and some of the things that we need to, build on. So thank you, and we're going to get right into the conversation. I'm going to take it up with the newlywed, so to speak. So we're going to start with Gabby. Gabby, welcome to Hey Sis Coffee and Conversation. I'm so happy that you could be here with us.
Happy to be here as well.
Great. So Gabby, tell us, how long have you been on this journey of marriage?
I have been on this journey for going on 2 years, August 7th.
August 7th is going to make 2 years. So you see, that's why I said it's still like a newlywed, right? Are we still in the honeymoon stage?
Listen, people warned me before, like when you get to marriage, it's totally different from dating. I remember Minister Steph, she was like, you want to do counseling? Even though we weren't even engaged yet. And I was like, counseling for what? No. But baby, that first year, I was like, Lord, this is what you want for me? But God is gracious, God is good. And I can say that I'm in my honeymoon phase, embracing it now. We've learned to live together and not want to kill each other every day. So we are now honeymooning.
Listen, I remember. Now, I've been married. I tell people it changes. I say 650 years, 60,000 years. No, next year will make 30 years. But I remember the first year. I was deceived. They were like, the first year, girl, that's your honeymoon year. No, the first year was a year of transition. And I'm getting accustomed to living with somebody, their habits, your habits. I remember that. I remember I was ready to end my marriage because my husband doesn't have any sisters and I don't have any brothers. And so, the toilet seat was a situation. It was a situation. I was ready to I can't do this. I can't take this. accustomed to each other. And then, so hold on, you sleeping on the right side? Because I sleep on the right side. I don't
Yeah,
know how to
I'm
sleep
on the
on
right
the left.
side. No,
So it's
no.
only one
I'm
right
like the
side.
right
This is
side
going to be
too.
a problem.
Right,
And so
right.
I remember it was a year of transition, petty arguments again, because, and nothing big and blown out, but it was just a difference. And I remember that. And I always share that. Um, my husband is very conscientious when it comes to the electricity and the water running. Lee, you don't need to brush your teeth with the water running. You could turn it off, brush your teeth. I can't do that. I have to brush my teeth with some noise. I can't. I
Right,
feel
right,
crazy.
right,
I gotta
right.
get away. So it was all these little petty arguments. So you're right. Honestly, I said everyone who told me that the first year was going to be the honeymoon phase, they lied to me. They lied to
100%.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, they did.
Sure did. And so now let's go on to Stacia. Stacia, everybody, y'all don't know Stacia's my good friend, eh? My good friend,
Good,
I'm
good friend.
very good friend. Let me tell you all that. So I appreciate her doing this. And I know it's because of the friendship.
Yes, it is.
Geez, Stacia. But Stacia, how long have you been at this marriage now?
March made 24 years,
Wow. 2 decades.
2 decades.
So at this point, have you been married longer than you've been single?
Um,
I'm not
I,
trying to find out your age.
and I'm trying to count now. I think, how old am I? It's almost the same.
It's almost the same.
Almost. I was in my early 20s when I got married. Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've been almost been married as long as I've been single.
Wow, wow, wow. And so, well, I'm sure for you it may have been the same. That first year, was that the transitional year for you as well?
It was. And also what made it a greater transition was our blended family. We had kids. Well, he had kids when we started. And so, yeah, that was
So it wasn't just getting accustomed to each other.
we had to get accustomed to the girls.
Right.
So I had to get accustomed to the girls. And then living with somebody, some strange person. So that was another thing. Because he
Right.
wasn't like me. And I couldn't understand that.
Like,
He did
didn't you
everything
were
wrong.
thinking, didn't everybody, doesn't everybody do this?
Right, that's what I thought, but it
And
wasn't the
of
problem.
course, your way was the right way. So
It is. So I had to learn to do things another way that wasn't the right way.
the wrong way.
No, I ain't going the wrong way. It's another way that's not the
So,
right way.
so Stacia, what would you say? And it don't have to be the exact thing, but what 24 years in, 24 years in, what is maybe one of the biggest things that you've learned so far?
The biggest thing I've learned, and I think I may have finally learned it, but in the last maybe 10 years, that we are not the same. And it's a good thing. Honestly, that's the biggest thing that I've learned because I wanted things to be my way, and sometimes I still want it to be my way, and I want it to be a certain way, and I want things to, but it's not. We are not the same person, and we are not. Our attitudes aren't the same, personalities aren't the same, and the thing I learned is it's okay, and it's a good thing because then we need to balance each other off, and because if he was like me, I think that would drive me crazy. So it's
Now
a good
that's
thing.
honest.
Yeah, I would drive him crazy if he was like me. So it's
Yeah,
a good thing that we are not the same. And that was a hard
absolutely.
lesson to learn that it's okay for him not to be like me.
Right, right. Yeah,
Took a
and
while.
that's the thing. I say now, 29, almost 30 years in, that I said, God gave Mark a measure of grace. I thought initially going in, God gave me a measure of grace to be able to deal with Mark. But at this point, I'm honest enough with myself to say that God gave Mark a measure of grace because
Yeah.
I'm not easy.
No, I'm not.
I'm not
I had to admit
easy.
that. I had to honestly admit that I'm not easy. I really am not.
I'm not, and I'm like, Lord, this a lot. This a lot. You know, you feel like the other person is a lot, and then when you really start to do introspection, you like it's me.
Yeah, that's me.
I'm the one who's a lot. So we also have, as I said, we also have our resident counselor, marriage matters. Stephanie, chime right in here. How long? So I'm putting you on the hot seat for a minute. So how long have you been married?
Oh, wow. 40 years. Got married, I believe, before some of you were born. 40 years, been married to one man, seen one for all of that time. And I like how Anastacia said, you know, you're not alike, and that is fine. That is good. We do not need two spenders. We do not need two talkers. You know, so being opposites can be an advantage. So that's good.
That's awesome.
Yes.
40 years. Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
40 years later, we are still here. And I must say that although it was 40 years, we had our ups and downs. It was like hills and mountains and valleys and hills and mountains and valleys. So thank God we're still here. And I would tell you one thing that I've learned in marriage is that marriages have seasons, marriages change. And a lot of us, if we want to say the same, that won't work. Things change, people change, your marriage will change. And that could be for the best, that could be for good. I am not the same person that my husband married. My husband is not the same person that I married. We have matured, we have grown, we have learned how to live with each other. And so that is something we have to always remember in marriages. Things change. And some things that change, we cannot help it. We have nothing we can do about it. If your husband loses a job, maybe that's nothing, or your wife, you can do about it. Somebody got sick. Things change, people change, marriages change, relationships change.
Wow. I love that. And I love that you said that because you could get caught in a place where you realize that the marriage or the person is changing because like you say circumstances whatever you grow, but you feel like no, you may be resistant to that change or feel like it's a problem because it's changing. So what happens though? How do you kind of navigate when you recognize that not only are you changing, but your spouse is changing? How do you navigate that in a way that you still are together through you're growing, you're changing, but you're not growing apart?
Sometimes some couples do grow apart, I may say. For instance, my husband and I, we went away for him to study ministry. And while he was there, one of the ladies said to me, Stephanie, while you're here, I would advise that you do classes also, because your husband is going to grow spiritually and he's going to grow socially. And you may just get leave behind. Or maybe there'll come a time when you're not having the same interests. You're not going to have the same conversation. Wouldn't be able to see eye to eye. But if you grow as he grows, that would help. And we have seen it where one spouse have grown, gone back to school, taken classes, doing things, meeting people, and the other is just at a standstill because they're not interested. And then you find that they are on different communication levels. That's when a big problem comes in. Because now your interest, and when you're watching the television and want to talk about what's happening in Afghanistan or Haiti, I want to go play basketball, or I want to play with my the games on the, what you call it now? Gabby, what those games are?
The PS5, the PS4,
That's
NBA
right, those
2K.
things. He's interested in that, and you're interested in more. So,
And
so
And you're not saying that there is anything wrong if he's interested in playing those things, but you're talking about if that's the sole interest beyond that and you want to have a conversation.
Right. If that causes if the season of change and or one growing more than the other causes a communication breakdown or
Mm,
communication conflict, then that is a problem. It doesn't have to, but it's always good when both can grow together. Can you imagine my husband wants to be, he's a pastor, and I am there. I don't even know anything about women's ministry. I don't even know how to get on with anybody. You know, it could be an imbalance with the couples.
yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it certainly can be a disconnect.
Yeah,
And so let's kind of stay right. Um, let's kind of stay right there about communication. You may be married to someone, usually we're the talkers, right? They say
yep.
the women are the talkers, but there are occasions you marry a man who likes to communicate. How important is that communication with your spouse? Talking about even just, it doesn't have to always be an intense thing, just world events or whatever, like conversation or about where the marriage is, how we see it, what is it that we're working towards. How important is that communication?
That'll be good to hear from the newlywed because she talked about a little bit about the rough times the first year, which happens. And she also mentioned that I asked her about counseling even way before she was
Right.
thinking about getting married. And so, Gabby, do you think that the counseling early on would help with the communication in the first years? Because I believe that is where it is most challenging at times.
Yeah, I definitely think counseling is such an effective tool in marriage that we often take for granted. Even when going through counseling, yes, a lot of things we should have talked about or we could have talked about, we were sort of in a box saying, oh, well, I don't want to say too much about this person. But counseling, especially prior to getting married, is a huge thing that is really recommended. I know I used to have the thing that, oh, we're not married, we're not even engaged, so why are we trying to do counseling? But if that is someone that you feel like God has for you, you want to spend your life with them, counseling is really important because even with communication with us, I'm someone I like to deal with everything head on. I like to go sleep and come back. Okay, we got to talk about this now. And my husband, he is the complete opposite. He's the type he doesn't like to speak with a hard head. He has to give me my time, Gabby. Let me be. And when I'm ready to talk, I would come back. So for me, that was like oh, you just want to run away from the problem. You don't want to deal with it right now. And I'm stubborn, and Mr. Cooper is also stubborn. So just learning effective means of communication is something that is so important. And counseling, I think definitely, Sister Steph. Oh, I wish I'd have taken her advice those years ago.
Okay, that's okay. But as you say, I think the most rough times are the beginning, the first 3 to 4 years, and communicating and understanding each other's bent. You know, the Bible says for the husbands
Mm-hmm.
to get to know the wives in an understanding way. And you may be together as as in a relationship, but when you start to live together and those two warm bodies start rubbing, that is where you will see the differences. And that's when it comes up. But I would say
Oh,
differences are
yeah.
not bad. Differences can be good. That's where you learn each other, and that's where you try to find the happy medium, the balance there for the husband and wife. Because just like you say, Laverne, some are talkers and some are
Right.
not. And some husbands can talk well. But communication, boy, if you could get that in the first 2 years, and also with help, because even in counseling, that is one of the areas we probably spend the most time. Because if you don't have good communication, your finances are not right. If you don't have communication, your vision is not right. If you don't have good communication, your everyday coming in and going and your lifestyle cannot line up that well because you just do not know each other. So communication is one of the basics. And then to conflict management, because if you don't have the communication, then you need conflict management because conflict will be inevitable if the communication
isn't there.
Yeah.
So true. Stacia, I'm going to put you out right now. Now, if y'all know Stacia, I won't say that Stacia isn't a talker because Stacia is a talker. I know those of you who think you know Stacia saying, no, Stacia's not a talker. Stacia is a talker in the right setting. She's a talker in the right setting. So Stacia, though, when you look at marriage and communication, how did you and Reggie, that's her husband, just in case y'all didn't know, that's also my good friend, navigate that? Or how are you navigating that?
Well, in the beginning, we didn't really have a really good grasp on proper communication. We really didn't. But we've learned how to communicate and more importantly, when to communicate because every time is not the right time to talk. And so we had to learn with each other, learn each other's ways so that maybe I'm ready to talk about something that's happening, but if he isn't interested in it ready, I had to learn to just drop it. And then later on, we could talk about it. And then even if it's something we learned also, every conversation doesn't have to be, like Stephanie said, there needs something intense. So we really started having a lot of intentional conversation, sometimes about nothing. And when I say about nothing, it isn't anything deep, but the thing was to talk and get connected because that was the important thing, connecting with each other. So we would lay down, like when we get up in the morning, sometimes our best conversations happen when we wake up and we just start talking about almost anything, but not really anything in particular. And so we end up having these beautiful conversations. And then when we look, it's like, oh, we got to go get ready for work. But the conversation that's going on, the connection that is going on is so good. But like I say, sometimes it's just timing. And so we really learned to recognize when is the right time to talk. And then when the opportunity comes, when you have a chance to sit down and talk about any and everything, because we talk about everything. We talk about politics. Well, none of us are no die hard or anything. So our politics are really, the conversation is really good.
Right.
We talk about spirituality, God. We talk about what we learned during the devotion. We talk about everything, kids, work. And so it's just, like I say, it's just a matter of enjoying the moment. When we have that time to sit down and talk, we sit there and we just talk. And sometimes it goes on and on. And you realize, oh, we got to get here, we got to get there, we got to do this or do that. But by that time, we've been deep in a conversation and we've been connecting. And that was the more important thing to us, learning how to connect to our
Connect.
Yeah.
And I really think that is one of the things. I don't know who, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, not anymore. But that is one of the big things. With the communication comes the connection. And so sometimes, like you said, the conversation isn't about anything in particular. It's not like, okay, listen, I have these list of things that we need to cover. Just that, and I think for me, those are the conversations that I enjoy with Mark the most. Those that just kind of organically happen, and we're laughing and talking. I remember one time talking all our business, we both woken up, and like we went into a fit of laughter because I'm getting up and I'm like, oh, holding my back. And then he was getting up at the same time and he's like holding his knee. And like both of us are like getting up like, oh. So he looked at me and he was like, this would we come to? But it was so funny. We just started laughing and talking and said, oh my goodness, we really getting old. Like you should have heard us, everybody grunting and like trying to get out of the bed. And we just talked and laughed and it was so beautiful. And so, to be able to have that kind of connection. Nika, thank you so much for tuning in. And to others of you who've tuned in, now I can't shout you out if you don't comment. I'm not trying to make you comment. I'm just saying I can see that you are tuned in. I just can't see who it is. Typically, if you just even say hello, I will shout you out. So I'm just letting you know. I don't want you to think I'm singling out anyone, but I can only see who exactly is tuned in if you comment. So, but thank you to those of you who are tuned in and maybe you shy and don't want to comment. So, we talked about communication and how important that was, how important counseling is. I want to emphasize that. I think that makes all the difference in the world. Let me change that. If you do counseling the right way, if you do it the right way, because you could go to counseling and it could be just, okay, yeah, man, y'all look like y'all in love, but kind of get right into the heart of it. So, Stephanie, talk a little bit about the importance of counseling, and not a week before you get married.
It's so true. Laverne, I really wish that the government would make a ruling to say that you have to have counseling before marriage and
Wow.
also before divorce, because divorce is such a monster and changes the family dynamics and relationship so horribly. And even some divorces that is so bad, I feel that people need counseling before marriage and before divorce. And I feel too as though they should come during marriage for a checkup every so often. When you get
That
a
part.
physical, that's right. You get
And
a,
not because you're having a problem, right?
it doesn't have just come to see how somebody else feel or say how we're doing, because both of you could, the blind could be leading the blind, especially when it comes to bringing up children. Something may come up and we are saying, no, you shouldn't. I don't think that's the best way of bringing up children, but you too may be happy with it. But marriage counseling, I would say, no one should get married if they haven't had good counseling. And I must say that my husband and I have been doing a lot of counseling, and we are associated with the American Association of Christian Counseling. It's called AACC, and we give a test. The test is almost like a compatibility test. What happens is there are different categories for this test. You are tested for family background, you're tested for conflict management, you're tested for finances, you're tested for religion, sex, and there are two others that right now doesn't come on me, but those areas to see how you are thinking and how he's thinking. When you answer the question, you may be thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to have sex 3 times a week. When he answered the question, he's thinking we're having it 3 times a day. And so we see that that's a conflict. So when the results, the 25-page results come to us, and we look at it to evaluate the couple, if I see on your conflict management that you got 40 and Mark said, and he got a score of 80, that shows me that it's very, very too big of a discrepancy. So something is wrong there. So what we would do as a counselor is then talk about how you both solve conflicts, because it seems like you two are not agreeing for how it should be done. And that is with all of the different categories, because right now too, religion is becoming a problem. Right now too, family background is becoming a problem because we have so many mixed families. And so when you were thinking, you came from a stepfather and she came from no father,
Right.
we have to look at that. So when we see the scores also on those, and the good thing about the test too, the test is a different one if you have never been married, and then it's a different one if you have been married before, and then it's a different one if you are cohabitating. So when you were given the test, the first page would ask you all of those questions, and then it would know which to give you, because it's a test that you do on the computer. Okay. You get your number, you sign up on the computer, you do your 2-hour period, and he does his own. but you don't do it together. And once both of you are finished, the computer would realize that and send the results to me and my husband so that we can overlook it to see where we wouldn't call it problems, but we call it challenges,
Right.
potential challenges that we can assist you with.
So, Stephanie, let me ask you then. Something just stood out to me what you said. You said the test varies based on whether you've never been married, whether you've been married before, or whether you're living together. And is that because each of those situations bring a different dynamic?
Exactly, a different dynamic. And so I have to ask the different questions to see how you both see the family background, how you both view sex right now, how you both would view the finances. Because one thing we always try to tell couples, if Laverne is $10,000 in debt and they get married, that means Laverne and Mark are in $10,000 debt. And sometimes one partner may not know what the other partner's debt is. But in counseling, and then it comes out, and then we try to navigate and show them how to, then that comes under money management.
Okay.
So that's another category.
I have a question here. I want to ask. Oh, hi, mommy. My mother is tuned in and listening. I'm shouting you out, mommy, and
Very
she's
good.
making it clear that she is listening. No, I have to read this. I'm listening not really for future marriage.
I was
So she
wondering.
just want to establish that, but for understanding and more knowledge.
Yes, yes. And it's
So
also
she's just
good
putting
way,
it out there.
right?
I'm not looking to get married again.
But she might have to counsel somebody.
Yes.
So that is very
Yes.
good to be listening in.
Right. But my question is, what advice would you give a single female who is independent, accomplished, community minded? So she's firing basically on all cylinders, as we would put it, and she is considering marriage. Or would you say it's better for her to stay single?
I think it's okay for anybody to desire marriage, even your mom.
I don't think she's desiring it though.
But anybody could desire marriage.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Do you think though, when you know you are a person, is it more, and please not just Stephanie, any one of the panels, anybody on the panel chime in. Do you think though that it is more difficult? Is it any more difficult for someone who is accomplished? For a woman who's accomplished, you kind of have everything, maybe you're at that stage where you may already have your own home, right? You have a great career, you do well financially. Do you find, or do you think that it's more difficult in the coming together?
I feel she could find a man probably in her same league. That's not impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
She can do that, but if she doesn't, that could.
That's where the problem is going to come in.
If they do not have proper counseling.
If they don't have proper
Because
counseling.
there are some things that we would highlight that they may not think about.
Okay. So even with the counseling period, I want to touch on finances.
Okay.
Now, I think, people, I never say that there's a hard and a fast way when it comes to finances. But you mentioned if that person has $10,000 in debt, then we have $10,000 in debt. But some people don't look at it like that. Some people say, my money is my money, your money is your money, and you work your situation out. Some people merge everything and they work from one account. Some people determine that, okay, I'll have my separate account, you'll have your separate account, but we have a joint account and we, make our financial commitments. Is there any right or wrong way, I guess is what I'm trying to ask?
To who?
To handle that part of it for finances.
No, I mean, who you pointing that question to?
Anyone can jump in. If you want to share your experiences and say how you do it, if you're comfortable, you can say. Mark and I, we share everything. So I tell people, if Mark tell you he don't have $10, don't ask me. That means we don't have $10.
That's it. That's it.
If you don't have it, I don't have enough. I don't have it. Don't have it. So don't think you could ask him and get a no and then come to me and get a yes.
Right. And that goes for the children too.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no, it's no I'm divide and conquer when you have
That's
kids.
right.
No. So I don't know if anybody else want to share how they see it, what works best for them.
Well, what worked for us and what has from the beginning up to now is we share everything. I remember when we first got married, Reggie, like before we got married, he liked credit cards. So we had a few credit cards. And so when we got married, we had credit cards. I don't like credit cards at all, but we ended up with a lot of credit card debt. And so we kind of got together and said, okay, we need to eliminate. I said we need to eliminate these credit cards. And we agreed that the credit cards need to go. And so we worked on a plan and we worked on paying off those credit cards. And that was a main focus. When we got paid, X amount went to pay off those cards. So his debt became our debt and we wiped out, I think it was like two or three credit cards. And we just, it was two-way. I think it was two credit cards.
Y'all looking at station like what? Reggie right there chiming in. No, it was three.
No, he's saying it was one.
Reggie said, don't have these people believing I was in a lot of debt.
It wasn't huge, but it was for a new couple starting out with children, it was a lot. And so we actually got together, we worked it out and said, we got to pay these off. And we focused on that and we made that a priority. And that's pretty much how we handle everything. There's no your bill, my bill, it's all ours, and we have to figure out how to get it all done. And my money is his money is my money. And so and I'm sure he don't mind, but when I was working and he started, imagine at the beginning, it isn't easy starting a business at the beginning. So sometimes the money came on our account, personal account, and we paid off the bills for the company just because that's how
We
it
just
works.
starting
So
out.
I'm not gonna say, hey, you start this thing on your own, you go figure out how you can get it done. No, this is ours. And so whatever I made went into our account, and we would have to transfer it to pay it off. But that's how marriage works. We do it together. And so because we did it together, if we make money, we make it together. If we spend money, that's what we spend together. And there are no secrets and no hidden accounts. If we have something separate, we each know what we have separate, and we have access to it. And so
And that,
we worked it together, and that works for us.
wow. Gabby?
Well, for me, my husband, he was always the saver. I'm the one who would, life's short. You gotta treat yourself every once in a while. So, I came in with a marriage with a small little loan. I mean, that small loan, adds up over time. In my head, I'm like, I have plenty of time to pay this off. And he was like, yeah, we got to get this under control. So with him being such a stickler for savings, we eliminated that. He was like, that same money you would spend on to buy a wig or to buy something, put that on your loan. And I'm like, whew, that hurt. But even just today, I laughed because he messaged me. He was like, hey, babe, how much on my account? He was like, why you always know how much on my account, but I don't know how much on yours? I said, that's a personal choice. We have access to each other's accounts. It's just I keep track of things. Because the same way he put in that savings, instilled that into me now. I'm someone I would check every day. I'm checking my transaction. Let me see, make sure money isn't just dipping out of the account. But we literally share everything as well. So I'm thankful for that now, just to have someone to keep me on track. Because I can
Yeah.
spend a dollar very quickly. But having that accountability partner, he was like, no, what happening? This is too much spending, too much love to treat yourself. You have to treat yourself every once in a while. But he was like, at a point, you have to say, okay, sacrifice, let's maintain this. Because the same way you're spending, you should be making that same amount of money at the end of the day. So for me, we share a lot of things in finances. Yes, we have a joint savings. We also have separate savings. So we put money here and there. If you want to do something for yourself, you have access to the money. But when it comes to saving, working towards a house, working towards a car, whatever it may be, we definitely put that together. And just I'm thankful that I don't have that argument to say, oh, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. He even said that day, he was like, what's mine is ours. but what's yours is yours. Obviously, he was joking, but
Right.
he was just saying, he was like, because we planned to go away soon, and he was just like, boy, you have plenty of money to be spending in the States, but I gotta buy groceries. And I was like, don't worry. That's what we have saving together. We take it
Right,
over the
right,
pool.
right. I and I think it's great when you kind of balance each other out. For Mark and I won't say that Mark is the spender, but he's more of a spender than I am. I am the one with the ton of the how much what all bills have to pay? Let's pay them all, pay them everything. That's all my focus. He'll have to chime in and say, Lee, we work hard. It's okay. We can treat ourselves. Yeah, but let's think about this. The bill is in here. Yeah. Why we think
Mhm.
Come in.
so he brought that kind of balance because laser focus. That was me. And so I think that when it comes to finances, we balance each other out that way. Because leave it to me, we don't have time for fun because there's a bill that's coming up from somewhere, and we need to be prepared.
Yes.
But Laverne, what happens, that is good, and what should happen, what Gabrielle and Anastacia said, but what happens when we two are not on one accord? Or when one is a spender and they do not want to agree with how the other is spending. We
Yes.
have those things do happen. And usually I say, if you can share the bed, you should be able to to share the bank book. But the problem comes when now with the lottery and now with the online buying, some people are really addicted to spending. And so if I have a spouse, when time comes for payday, they only bring home half of it or hardly any. Or if I have a spouse who is responsible for the light bill and then 2 months later the light is off, what happens? There are people who have those differences for a very long time. And then there are couples who would say, you are responsible for the light, the cable, whatever. I'm responsible for the food and the mortgage. And they do that and they work well. So I would say, whatever you agree to, stick to the agreement and you can work well. But then if you have a spouse who have an addiction to playing numbers or whatever it is,
Suppose they don't even, I'm sorry, Stephanie, to cut in, but suppose they don't even have an addiction. Suppose they just have bad spending habits. They are impulsive people, or they are emotional spenders, or they figure whatever. It's not an addiction as much as how do you balance that? What is the best thing to do when you have a spouse that isn't a saver, who spends almost recklessly or spends with no thought about meeting? You don't have to be like me. I want to pay the bills in advance, but you don't pay the bills or you only piece the bills. What do you do in instances like that?
well, that's when spouses communication again, and they would say, either we're going to have a pool, we each going to give this amount for the bills. We know the bill's going to come up to $500 a month. So you give your 250, I give my 250, and I will be responsible to pay the bills
And
because
I'll pay them.
you have already contributed. Or you would say, you are responsible for the light, and I would be responsible for the mortgage. And if they are not being responsible like that, and that do happens, then you need a further conversation to say, now, you're not living up to your obligation. I came home, the light was off. There's no grocery, whatever it is. We need to have a conversation to know now, how are we going to go forward with the finances? Because like this, it ain't look like we're going to go far.
Right.
And sometimes two couples have goals and visions. I heard Gabby talking about to buy a house, which is, I'm hoping that that's what she's saving towards, being married only for 2 years, or she may have a house. I don't know. But You talk about the vision and where you want to go. And but if you can't join me in the vision, that's when conflict comes in. When you cannot contribute to the vision, that's when conflict comes in. And then we need to ask the question, why not? And if you are that irresponsible, then you probably should come to counselors who can help you to navigate through that irresponsible spouse to get them back online. Because right now, too, some females, I would say, come out of their parents' homes and they're not used to paying for anything.
Right.
Daddy, I need some hair. Daddy, I want another handbag. Daddy, let me use your credit card to order from Shane or Amazon, whatever. And dad is fine because dad is already established. Dad doesn't have any more bills. And so now she gets married and she thinks that her husband is dad. And the husband is saying, I cannot keep up like dad. Dad do not have a mortgage. We have a mortgage. We have a car bill. Your dad don't have that. And then sometimes that takes a lot of mental adjustment for the female because she have been, quote unquote, a little spoiled by dad because dad could have done it.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So it's so much to navigate. Um, but I want to say, so sometimes, you listen and you're like, I got to get all of this together. It is a process. It is a process. I want to change gears a little bit and talk about submission. Gabby and Stacia, y'all don't log off on this spot. I want to ask each of you what that means to you. What does submission look like to you in your relationship? Stacia, okay, Stacia chimed in first, so we're going to put Gabby in the hot seat first this time. So Gabby, yeah, what does submission look like? What does it look like to you in your relationship?
Well, for me, I would say submission is basically just not saying letting a man control you or just being the head and what he says goes, but it's just being able to understand that, okay, you are the head of the home. You are the one that will, following Christ's model, first of all, the most important thing. And how the same way that Christ loved the church, you are leading us in a way that will be best for us. You're not just making impulsive decisions or just saying your ego isn't the one that's taking control of the marriage. It's me understanding that, hey, yes, I am here, I'm your wife, I'm your helper, but at the end of the day, if you say, yeah, but I feel like we should go with this, yeah, I understand, let you know. And I know I'm the type of person I can be high like some my way most times. And being in marriage, I know for our first year, that was a big struggle for me saying, well, yeah, you have to do things, but that don't make no sense. And just having to say, Gabby, calm down, because you don't wear the pants in this home. Relax yourself. Just realizing that, okay, I understand that I believe this way, and just be able to sit down and balance it out. Me saying, okay, I think we should go with path A, and him saying, well, maybe path B is better for us right now, and just understanding each other. And even if I feel like Miss Simmons said when she made note of the right way and the other way, just realizing sometimes that the other way may be the best way to go, just to keep peace in the home, although I may not feel that's the right way. And for me too, it's not always just bowing down and saying, you know what, let's just go with this. But the submission part comes in for me when it's saying, I have to, not like to, I have to take my time and just step back and say, Holy Spirit, just lead me in whatever I say. Help me to let it come from a place of love that I am not speaking. Because when Gabby speaks, sometimes Gabby gets ahead of herself. So just lead me and guide my words and let whatever decision that he's making be the best decision. And just being able to help him along the way. So I'm just playing my role as the helper and just being there for him, even when it's hard.
Yes, it can be hard sometimes. Stacia?
Very, very similar. It's not too much more that I can add to that, but it's just um, knowing that I can put in my input, I can give my point of view, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my opinion is going to be taken. And that was a hard thing for me because I can argue a point to the death and tell you all the reasons why I'm right and why it should be done this way and why it make more sense, why it's logical. I could do all of that, but I had to learn that part of submission is he can hear all of that and still do what it is he feels is the right thing to do for the family. And so that's the part that was a little harder for me. But it isn't being a doormat and being run over, but it's just understanding that
Mhm.
he's not answering to me, he's answering to God. And so whatever you do, that's who you're answering to. And so I have to understand it and just trust God that he's following with what it is that, God has laid out or what God has said to him, okay, do this. And so I gotta give my advice, give my opinion, and then move on. And that may not be taken, but just move on. That's it. And
Yeah.
trust it.
I think all of us kind of approach it the same way. You hear submission and it's out there, and sometimes that's the way that the spouse may see it, the husband may see it. Submission means that you just do whatever I say, no questions asked. I'm the leader. You just yes sir, no sir. And I could be wrong, and that's why we have Stephanie on. I don't think that that's the way that submission should work. I believe that to submit to you is a good thing because that says that I trust you. I trust you. I recognize that you are leading this family and I trust you to do right by this family. But I need room to be able to express my opinion. I understand that at the end of the day, like Stacia said, you may not go with my opinion. I'm gonna have to work that out because, like Stacia, I feel like my opinion was a good one and it was right, right? But I feel like there should be room in that submission that I can say, well, babe, did you ever think about it like this? Or, okay, just I understand this what we doing. So why? Tell me the logic behind it so I could kind of understand it in my mind where we going. And so that's how I approach it. And that's fine. You are the leader and I don't have a problem with that. But I also feel like in that I need to have a voice. And that voice doesn't mean that we go in. Now, guess what? I could tell you one thing. As much as I may have a voice privately, when we go out, whatever that decision was that you made, united front.
Definitely.
Yes, sir. That's our decision. Succeed or fail. And then not with the I told you so's. If it don't work, I'm coming back at you. So I'm not even bringing up my idea right away. I coming back like, so what else you think we should do? That man, but that's me. So we're gonna go to Stephanie. And what a submission. How do you and I'm trying to take really the stigma away from that's been attached to submission. Like Stacia said, it's not about being a doormat. It's not about just being blindly led. So talk to us about submission and what that looks like or what that should look like.
Submission is really from the heart. It is freely giving to your spouse in a humble and respectful way. Now, sometimes you may give in, but that's not from your heart. You're doing it only in actions, but the heart is saying, oh no, oh no. That is not real submission. Real submission.
I gotta work on that then, because sometimes it's don't be from the. I just being honest. Sometimes it's don't be from the heart. I ain't get there yet.
All of us go through that. The Bible tells us to submit to your husbands as unto the Lord. And so when we are submitting to God, we're giving him wholeheartedly. And that's how we should give to our spouses. And being submissive doesn't mean that you do not have an opinion. Being submissive doesn't mean that you can't express yourself, but it's the way we do it. That's why I said it's a heart issue, and freely and respectfully to your husband. Because number one, we're going to respect him as the leader and head of the home. And there are times I would say what I had to do myself, and I know otherwise to do, that we have to submit even when we feel absolutely that we are correct and he is not right. You give
That's
him
the
his,
hardest.
that's the hardest part, especially if it comes to finances or your children. That is so hard to give up. But then when you say, when you're out there, we all in this together. And then I would say too, if the decision he made faltered, we don't need to say, I told you so. You know, they make mistakes too. And sometimes I would tell you, some husbands only go against you so that they can prove I'm the man, I'm the leader. But I
That's
hope that
unfortunate.
unfortunate, but that doesn't happen in Christian marriages, or it should not. But when we freely give, just like someone said, it doesn't mean that we cannot express our opinion, doesn't mean that we are doormat, and it doesn't mean that you disrespect me and do as you wish, or every time you say something, I have to jump up and just act on it right away. But it's heart freely given, respectfully and humbly to your spouse. And you know, a lot of times we talk about submission and think it's only for the women. But the Bible says, submit ye one to another. So how I submit to you, there are times you need to submit to me, but we do it in balance and trying to be equal. But if there is something that a decision have to be made, you give way for him to make the final decision. Even if he takes some of what you say, but he see it another way. That's allowing him to lead. But Laverne, I would also say that there are times we should not submit according to the Bible. We don't have to submit for everything. We do not submit
Hold
if it
on, let
is,
me get my pen.
get your pen.
Go ahead.
We do not submit if it is sin against God. We do not submit if it's harmful to someone. If your husband is telling you to do something, and I must say that some husbands now are just so aggressive and mean, they're trying to get their spouses to do some things that the spouse really do not want to do. We do not submit if he wants to lead you in a false religion or cult, and you feel as though that is not right for my family. And you do not have to submit if you don't think he is in his right mind. And let me tell you, a lot of husbands come home drunk or high, and they're asking you to do some things or get in some positions that you do not want to. Some husbands may even want to try with their young girl or step girl or child that is in the house. You do not have to submit if you think he is not in his right mind. And many come home as alcoholics and make some demands that when you tell them the next day, did I really say that? I didn't know that I say that. And then you do not have to submit if you think it's going to harm someone else. If it's going to harm someone else, you say, no, I cannot do that. Do not tell me to go with you in somebody else's house. I'm going to be in the car while you rob. I cannot do that. So submission, yes, but only to a limited reasons. And the Bible says, as unto God.
I love that. So submission
Yes.
isn't just everything. Once I say it, you just do it, no questions asked.
No, it's not.
Especially if it's against what God's word says.
And if you feel he's not in his right mind, and if you think it's going to be harmful to somebody else, or if you think it's illegal or immoral,
I
Yes.
love that. And we need to, because sometimes you go into a marriage and the husband doesn't see it that way. He don't care if it's illegal, immoral, go against your conscience, go against God's word. He said it and you do it and that
Yes.
settles.
That's right. Yes. Come and go with me and help me with this. You be the accomplice, you know.
Right, right.
Oh, so
Well, we are basically out of time. However, before we wrap up, I want to ask Stephanie in the marriage building to last. I want you, if there's some things that we didn't cover that you really want to get out there. I want you to be able. Let's go ahead, even if we go a little bit over time. That's okay. And of course, ladies, I want each of you to kind of share. I'm telling you now, so you could start thinking um you know what you've learned or some advice that you could give along this marriage journey. Hi Dulcie, my sister's listening in, and so thank you so much for tuning in. But go ahead, Stephanie.
okay, I made a post today, my weekly post, and it says, in a relationship, it's hard to solve a problem when only one person is trying to. We both have to work together to solve the problem. We both have to work together to advance the relationship or the marriage. We both have to work together if we're going to solve the conflict. And Laverne, I think we need to talk about conflict resolution
Oh,
sometime in this marriage because it's
yes,
really causing
please go
havoc.
ahead.
Yeah, especially when it comes to blended families, I would say, knowing how to navigate his children versus my children, that is really becoming a problem now in the Bahamas because the blended families are growing in numbers because of the divorce and what we are seeing happen. And not only that, because a lot of us, I shouldn't say us, but a lot of couples have children before marriage. And so they come into the marriage like that, and then there's a divorce or there's a death. And that causes conflicts because sometimes the children will try to play the game against the spouses.
I want to ask you along the same lines of conflict resolution. Does everything have to be handled right then, right now? No, we have to resolve this. You know how they say, don't go to bed. And I'm saying that based on, never go to bed angry. Is it okay sometimes to step away, especially if you feel like you're really about to lose it? Or, or you have to settle everything right then and there?
Well, some people interpret when the Bible say, do not let the sun go down. Some of us interpret that to mean as soon as you can. For some of us, as soon as we can could be tomorrow. As soon as you can in 2 days. But it says as soon as you can. And Gabby alluded to it earlier, is that if I am not ready and you are ready, please wait for me and give me that respect. Because I may need time to cool down. I may need time to know how to speak to you. Because if I speak to you in a rage, I may say some words that is in the atmosphere and I cannot take back. I may need some time to just think about what has happened and how I could try not to let it happen again when we talk. And or I may to think about now how we're going to resolve this for once and for all. But what is happening also, I would say, in marriages, they may try, a lot of them without counseling to resolve the conflict, but only thing that happens is they put the rug, sweep it under the rug, but it is not solved. And so it repeats itself.
So the point is, even if you have to step away, you have to go back to it.
Some people need to
You
take a
can't
dive,
just step away and then like, oh, we'll just not look in that room. Keep that door closed.
come back to it. You got to get back under that rug and bring it back. It will come back, and the next time it would not be as it was the last. It will be even more egregious. So try your best to completely solve it so it does not have to come back, but come up again. But if you put it off, make an appointment with each other. Do not be tired. Do not be hungry. Do not be lonely. Do not be angry when you come back. You remember that, right, Laverne? Halt. Always come back with everybody in a boss settled and clear conscience to be able to talk about this issue. Some issues are real tough and hot that even you both cannot solve it. You may need a third party. So try a trusted friend, somebody more mature, but do not go to your parents.
Why
Right.
not? Because
When
someone
you
may be listening and saying, all I do is talk to my mommy.
no, when you go to your parents and you both have, as husband and wife, have already solved it, your wife or your parents or his parents is still seeing you in that light. And they haven't forgotten, but you have moved on.
Right,
Yes.
right.
That's what.
Absolutely. I want to touch on before, and I know we're over time, but I don't want us to miss out this aspect. Let's talk about sex, y'all.
Laverne,
Yes.
that's a 2-hour show. I'm ready for that.
So I have to bring you back, eh?
And you want to touch on sex for 2 minutes? And Gabby only been married 2 years, and Anastacia for 24, and I'm for 40, and you want to talk about sex for 2
We need more time.
Listen, Sister Hut, I tried to touch on it.
Okay, touch on
Steph.
it.
Thank-
Go ahead.
Okay, Steph, really quick. What do you do when you both have different sex drives? Like, and you mentioned it earlier, what our sexual relationship is gonna look like. How important is it for us to talk about that? Because like you said, one person may think our sex life is gonna look like 20 times a week, and you thinking, 3 may be good for me, or I know this is really, it really could be 2 hours, or it's a situation where maybe one is coming in with no sexual experience and the other one is coming in with sexual experience.
And one may be coming in with some abusive experience or rape, and another one coming in without that. So the one with the low sex drive, we talk about it to find out why. What may have caused that? It could be something physical, meaning in the body. It could be something emotional that has or mental that has happened in the past. Or it could be just something now that we need to talk about for me to let you know how I like it, when I like it. Some people may prefer morning, some may prefer evening. So, and then some women especially may not know their body until, so if they do not know their bodies and what turn them on, then they cannot tell that to their spouse. And so it might not even be a low sex drive, but it just may be that I'm not enjoying it now because of these reasons.
You see, ladies, I didn't put us in the hot seat, right? We just allowed Stephanie to lead that and just take from that whatever you need to take from that, because apparently we're gonna need to just have a 2-hour talk about this to get right down to the nitty-gritty. Is there anything else, Stephanie, that you want to mention?
I would say too that too many divorces has happened that should not have. People divorced, but they still loved each other. And if you look at the survey, a lot of divorced couples said, we did not have to divorce if we had just had proper counseling and had given each other some time. Because I would advocate, and sometimes I do tell couples, separate, give each other a break, but time that break. Say how long the break is going to be, number one. And number two, you're both working on it while you're having the break.
We ain't just breaking. We ain't just breaking and then I dating.
No. It's we have separated for a purpose, to get back together and we're going to work on how we're going to get back together to be able to live together in harmony again. So
I
that
love
is what the
that.
break is for. Not a break up, but a break from each other. And
So
in
that,
that,
so that we could do the work we need to do to get back to where we need to be.
yeah, and Laverne, you know something? Some of us do not have problems, but we need breaks from our husband. I just need a break. Sometimes I go away for a weekend without him, or he goes without me. We need a break from each other, but we're doing fine. And
Well,
that's
listen,
good.
Station could tell you I'm a believer in that. My husband and I are doing fine. No, seriously. You need that private time. You need that, and I think it's important not just for you, but also for your spouse. Sometimes it's good just to go away. I used to do. We haven't done it since the pandemic, but we used to come with my friends and I. We would do an all girls trip. I wasn't anybody's wife. I wasn't anybody's mommy. I was just Laverne. And it wasn't any, we went to restaurants, we laughed, we talked, and I always came back in a better frame of mind. So I really encourage that because, and again, I'm not the counselor. I think it's unhealthy if the sum total of your life is just your spouse. Like that's it.
It should be wider than that. It should be wider than that.
And when you say wider than that, that's not to say it then should be just your spouse and children.
No, no. You should have other friends,
Outside relationships.
outside relationships, and some of those relationships should be people who are higher or more educated than you are, who can help bring you up. And there should be someone who maybe not as far as where you are, who you are helping to bring up. In other words, you should have a mentor and a mentee. Otherwise, you being by yourself, you don't know where you are. You may think you're good to find out, ooh, I'm not that good.
I'm not as good as I thought I was. If you only always competing against yourself, you really don't know how fast you are.
Exactly, exactly. A mentor and a mentee. All of
Yes,
us, all of us.
yes. So listen, sisterhood, as we are about to wrap up, we're talking about marriage building to last. And this, in no way have we exhausted this topic or this conversation. But my hope and prayer is that if you are considering marriage or if you are married, these are some of the tools that you need to make sure that you have in your arsenal. And one of the big things, and I want to say this, you may have heard Stephanie mention counseling a lot of times. I don't want you to just sit there, oh, she's only saying counseling because she's a counselor. It is important if you are in a situation in your marriage, even if you're not having problems, to counseling, it doesn't mean that your marriage is falling apart. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong or you have a problem. You may, but I think one of the things that I liked was when Stephanie, when you said, even if everything is going well, still come and sit down. I think that will help you maybe sometimes so that you aren't running to counseling because everything is now falling apart. We normally see counseling as just, okay, I'm in crisis, so I need counseling now. But maybe if we included that, you're just doing a little checkup, maybe we could avoid some of those crises. So, Gabby, in your almost 2 years of marriage, what one thing or a couple things would you like to share to just encourage someone who is or along the same lines in the same place you are or who is contemplating marriage?
Well, first thing, I know a lot of people in my age bracket, in a sense, we love to crack jokes, and it's sort of feel like a taboo now to get married. Oh, marriage is hard, marriage isn't for me, but marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is something that everyone may not aspire to, but it's awesome to just have someone that you can call your lifelong partner that you want to grow old with, you want to have children with, you want to just build the rest, stay together with for the rest of your life. And marriage isn't easy. So one thing that always sticks with me is that it's not you against the person, it's you and that person against the problem. So one of the main things to me, especially even just after a year of marriage, realizing that hey, we always say yes, we put God first in our life and we keep him at the center, but you truly, truly, truly have to keep God in the center of the marriage. Because the enemy doesn't want to see us together. He doesn't want to see marriage prosper. Come on now, that's not his plan for us. So we know that it's ordained by God. We know that it's something that God wants to see. That's what his model is. So marriage is a beautiful thing. Marriage is lovely. Marriage is not easy, but it's always worth it. Have fun with your partner. Don't stop having fun. I know my husband and I at one point we just got tagged and it was like, well, I see you every day. We here, we good. It isn't any conflict, but it was just like we were, in a sense, roommates. Yeah, we would talk to each other, we would have fun together, but we weren't how we were when we were dating. You can't lose that romance aspect of marriage because you need to remember who you are, and that's another thing Alex said that. Don't lose who you are in marriage. Don't just become his wife. Everything is, oh, I'm Edwin's wife. I'm Edwin's spouse. Remember who Gabrielle is. Remember who you were before marriage. And as you continue to grow in marriage, just stay true to yourself. Don't ever lose yourself in the process. That's my 5 cents.
Stacia, with these
Well,
2 decades.
for a long time. Okay. Well, two things. One, um, make sure divorce is not an option. Take it off the table as an option. When you take it off the table as an option, then your options are make it work, resolve the issues, work through it. Those are your options. Make sure divorce is not one of your options. And of course, I'm not talking about any abusive situations on that. But make sure number one, divorce is not an option. And number two, have a goal for your marriage. What is it that you want your marriage to look like financially? What you want to look like spiritually, as a parent, as a couple? What is it you want your marriage to look like? So that everything that you do, it heads toward that goal. If I want us to, like Gabrielle said, continue to have fun and have a good relationship, then make sure you planning dates and going out and traveling. I think this year was the first time my husband and I went away, just us, since we've been married. That's 24 years of carrying children and everything. And it's the first time we went away by ourselves was for our anniversary in March. So, and he had to practically drag me on the plane. But make sure that you set a goal for your marriage. What is it you want your marriage to look like? So that you know in 10 years, I want us to be doing this 20, 30, 40 years. Set a goal. And then work, make sure the things that you do work toward that goal. Because you're not going to work against each other. If you two came together and set a plan and made goals, then you're going to work together to accomplish those goals. Stay active, stay fun, make sure you're financially stable, all the spiritual goals, praying together, devotion. Set those goals so that you know what you're working toward. And like I said, make sure divorce is not an option. And that's my advice.
I love it. Well, I'll throw in my 5 cents. Um, I agree with everything that all of you have said, both of you have said. I would also say it will take both of you committed to working through. Marriage is beautiful. I think Stephanie said it. You're going to have your mountains, your valleys, your ups, your downs. But if you commit to working together, enjoying the good times, we holding hands. We still holding hands when it gets a little bit rough. You remembering that that is your quote unquote person and recommitting to each other, not necessarily in a ceremony, but recommitting to each other every now and again. We still in this together. We still working this out. We are still, and don't lose track of each other. And you can still be yourself in your marriage and still be one, right? and navigating that. And I'll also say, if you have children, there is the tendency, and I'm saying it because we were guilty of it, that everything becomes about the children. Everything becomes about the children, and the children are at the center of everything. And that's why I said, don't lose track. So when we became empty nesters, because Mark and I are empty nesters now, we had to go through a period of reconnecting, because the focus and the motivation, it wasn't that we didn't love each other anymore, but so much of our energy went into our children, making sure our children were good, making sure that we had to reconnect. And I think for that first year when we were officially empty nesters, when Andre finally went off, I think for almost a year, we would go, not necessarily sit down to dinner, even if we grabbed something to eat, we would go and we would drive. Mark, there's certain places he liked to drive, and just at the end of a hard day, and we would sit down and we would laugh and we would talk, and it helped to remind us and to reconnect. And so I would also say that make sure that you are, like Gabby said, not just roommates. So do not lose the intimacy. And intimacy isn't only just sexual. Do not lose the intimacy of your relationship. Even when you have children, your children are important. Your children, yes. But if they are your sole focus, then you are not balanced. Stephanie, you take it away.
You all, I love the comments, and they are all so accurate and correct. And I can see why Anastasia's been married for 24 years, and you yourself for 30 years. And Gabby, we're praying for you to reach the 24 plus 30 plus 40. And you'll reach all of those.
Hey, no pressure.
But she knows where she can come, because she's my
Yes.
godchild. So I would not take anything like that. No.
But so I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Gabby and Anastacia. Stephanie, thank you. Always a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you so much. And listen, I'm telling you, make sure that you are following Stephanie on Facebook. She has a little short post, but they are good, talking about unforgiveness and toxic. That I saw that one. I really like that one. And how if you're carrying that unforgiveness, the relationship is still toxic. And so make sure that you are following her. Make sure that you are listening to Dove so you can hear those little tips. Marriage matters. I love them. Sometimes they come in so handy, just even as a reminder. So we appreciate you sharing, not just from your own professional expertise, but from your personal expertise. 40 years in, that's a standard. And so thank you so much to all of you and my guests, and to all of you. Hey sis, thank you so much for listening. If you saw at the bottom, we had the ticker going. If you'd like to sponsor an episode of Hey Sis Coffee and Conversation, then please reach out to us. The number is below, or the email, and let us know. We'll be more than happy to receive that sponsorship. And so I just want to thank all of you for tuning in, for your comments. And we are here building to last, in these marriages. And so we will see you on our next episode. I don't know how. Y'all pray for me. I'm going to be talking to Pastor Dr. Burrows, because I need to borrow his wonderful wife one more time, because we want to cover, y'all ready for this one? Life after divorce. That's the next one. Yeah, we got to cover all of the entire relationship. Sometimes no matter how hard we try, it just didn't work. So maybe someone didn't try. Maybe we didn't have the proper tools that we need, whatever. So we want to get into it and talk about that as well. And so that'll be on the next episode. But thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you are subscribing to the Hey Sis Empowerment YouTube channel, and also that you are following us on Facebook, Hey Sis Empowerment and Resource Center. So follow us on Facebook. Make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Jesus Motivation Moments. It's usually no more than 2 minutes, just a bit of encouragement for you to start your day. Thank you as always, and let's keep talking, let's keep growing, let's keep sharing, and we can do all of it over coffee. So thank you for tuning in to Jesus Coffee and Conversation, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.